Hello there, kia ora. Conspiracy theorists are an interesting bunch. Like any group, they're not homogenous. Everybody is different in their own beliefs and what it is that they want to achieve, and conspiracy theorists are exactly the same. That's why you have so many different sorts of groups popping up all over the place with different belief structures. But there are a couple of things that seem to be fairly common between people who fall down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole. One of those things is critical thinking issues. Those are the kind of ways that they come up with connections that aren't really there because they don't have the ability or the want to go out and actually get the full big picture. So they get angry and worked up. And anybody who is trying to get a message out there to anyone else that doesn't seem to be listening gets frustrated when that happens. Have you ever tried telling a toddler that they shouldn't be eating whatever it is that they're eating at the time? It's frustrating for anybody. But we saw some really interesting examples over the last couple of days of this. And it should be pointed out as well, a lot of this ties into research that's actually being done around the psychology of anger. There was work that was done last year that reported that being angry and enjoying that feeling of being angry actually is something that feeds in really heavily to people who believe in conspiracy theories. And that's because people who believe in conspiracy theories do get frustrated and angry with the people around them when the connections that they see that nobody else does, apparently, because they don't actually exist, becomes the kind of thing that they get fixated on and get frustrated with. That anger feeds back into their emotional state and their psychological state changes because of it. It's quite a fascinating read. But we saw some really interesting examples of this over the last couple of days. On Friday, Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters actually threw a little bit of a tantrum that very soon got overshadowed by the fact that the Inter-Islander ferry got grounded in Picton. And don't get me wrong, that's clearly a big story. But the story about Winston is that he was demanding that Sport New Zealand rewrite their rules around trans athletes. Now, he keeps telling people that they need to go back and take a look at what's in the coalition agreement. The coalition agreement says they want to provide a safe space for people to go out and deal with amateur sports, and Sports New Zealand is doing that and have been doing that since before New Zealand first got back into Parliament or even started campaigning. In fact, they did it before Winston even went down and started flirting with those people at the parliamentary protest. They've been working on this for a while now, which is why it's been put on a watch order by the government. They're basically sitting there going, yeah, you're doing the job, and Winston's not happy. So he got angry, held a press conference about it, and stormed off without making any other comments or clarifying exactly what he meant by Sports New Zealand needed to rewrite things. It's not uncommon for this kind of action behaviour because it gives people a chance to be angry, it gives Winston a chance to be in his feelings, and he can tell people he's doing something to talk to those conspiracy theorists who believe in what it is that he is trying to do. The other example that we saw, which hasn't hit the press yet, actually came from Hamilton City Councillor Andrew Bidet. Now, you might remember Andrew because he's got a bit of a checkered past. He's a member of that Residents and Ratepayers Association group that wanted to execute city councillors over what they considered some weird nutjob conspiracy around 20-minute cities being some big prison. You know, I mentioned that one in a video the other day. Fascinating how that one pops up again. Andrew has been known to use some very colourful language. He got banned from the premises of Hamilton City Council before he was elected for his abuse that he had towards staff. And he's been known to use that abuse while he's been elected so that he can, quote unquote, make a point. He has been in a fair bit of hot water. Well, Andrew doesn't actually live in Hamilton City Council boundaries. He's a resident of Cambridge, which means that he falls under the Waipā District Council. And they've been seeking some feedback on one of their new plans that they want to put in place around transport. They've got a whole bunch of plans in place, like leaving things exactly as they are, or focusing more on public transport options with more focus on things like cycling and walkways for people. They want to make it easier for people in Cambridge to be able to commute to Hamilton, which is obviously the largest employer in the area, but also to places like Te Awamutu, which is the base for Waipā District Council, and there's a lot of connection going in there. So Andrew offered his feedback. Now, I'm going to censor this, and I don't do that very often. And that's really a sign of just how harsh it is of what he said. When he offered his particular feedback, he said, "What the are you doing? Gary Diet better be sacked before he retires. C is not the preferred option, and this is not a consultation." Option C is the option for more roadways that deal with cycling and walkers and more bus services to Hamilton. He then followed up with any other feedback saying, "Have you learned nothing from the dogs and the innovating street You continue to lie and disrespect the public. Get on your knees and beg forgiveness. You better damn well provide my name and comments to every elected member. O'Regan, get off your fat ass and do your job. Sack the entire staff. O'Regan is actually Susan O'Regan, who is the mayor of the Waipā District Council. So as you can see, Andrew is clearly very angry. And the problem is, they can't fire him at all. In fact, we saw last week a bunch of councillors in Invercargill pull up the fact they wanted to get rid of the mayor, Knobby Clark, after he made comments so offensive that the fire department down there asked for him to be stood down. And he turned around and said, no, not going to happen, because our laws don't allow that. Our laws do not have any kind of way for an elected representative to be removed from office through either a citizens-initiated process or from other councillors. The only way an elected representative at a local body level can be removed from office is if they are incapacitated from doing the job. It might be going to prison or it might be being sick for a few months, but if they can't do the job, then they can be removed. This is a major flaw in our local democracy. And it's not something that's likely to be fixed anytime soon, because when it comes to local democracy, well, our government only wants to tell the councils what they should be doing and then demanding it instead of listening to councils when they say this is what we would like to do, which is a real concern. And if you've got a council who's got conspiracy theorists on it, and there are a few around there and a possibility of a couple more coming through the ranks, it's something you need to be really aware of before you vote. These people are incredibly passionate about what it is that they want to put out there in the world and what the issues are that they think need to be fixed. But they're not necessarily seeing the world from the same perspective as everybody else. And having that on your council can be disruptive, as we've clearly seen with the Hamilton City Council and Invercargill. And it can be disruptive at every level of government, as we saw with New Zealand First and Winston Peters having his little meltdown around trans athletes that's already been dealt with.